Welcome back, MMA fans. For those of you who have been with me before, I appreciate you joining me again. And for those of you that this is your first time viewing, thank you. What we're doing today is a quick recap of the predictions that I made for the fights we saw last night, December 8th, for UFC 231. So overall, we were 3-2 on the night. Made a couple of predictions in there, was pulling for a couple of the underdogs, and I'll touch on that in a second. But overall, pretty spectacular card, and of course the main event, Max Holloway versus Brian Ortega, was absolutely amazing. So let's start off with the first fight of the night though. Jimmy Manuwa versus Thiago Santos. So my prediction for the fight was a first round knockout for Thiago Santos. The result? Second round knockout for Thiago Santos. So first round was amazing. Thiago actually, within the first minute of the fight, almost got the job done. I thought he was going to do it, but ended up being a really spectacular round. Back and forth action. Later in the round, Jimmy Manuwa actually landed a couple of big blows and stuttered Thiago for a second. Was kind of scared for my pick there, but came out in the second round, and in the first 45 seconds or so, Thiago shut him down. So great fight. Congratulations to Thiago Santos. Jimmy Manuwa, we'll see where he goes from there. As I said in the prediction video, he's 38 years old. He's been losing his last handful of fights. So we'll see where he goes from there. But congrats to Thiago. As good as he looked at 205, I really think he should move back down to the 185-pound division. I think in the middleweight division, he's got a path to the top of that division. Heading into last night, he was the 15th ranked middleweight. And I think after a second round KO over Jimmy Manuwa, I looked at the rankings. I think the UFC should put him up at about number 10 in the middleweight division after what we saw last night. I think he deserves a top 10 matchup in the middleweight division. Not top 5, but 6 through 9-ish he should get. 6 is Israel Adesanya. He's not going to get that fight. 7 is Paulo Acosta. He's not going to get that fight. He's undefeated. He's looking for more of a top 5 fight. They're not going to give him somebody like Thiago ranked behind him. So really looking at number 8, Derek Brunson, or number 9, Jared Cannonier. I think those are two good matchups for Thiago, deserving matchups for the other guys. Derek Brunson's coming off of a KO loss to Israel Adesanya, and Jared Cannonier is coming off of a victory over David Branch. So I think Thiago Santos, after a great job last night against Jimmy Manuwa, deserves to be ranked number 10 in the middleweight division, and I think he deserves the top 10 matchup. If he beats, number 8 Derek Brunson or number 9 Jared Cannonier, he'll move up even further, and I think at that point he'll deserve a top 5 matchup in the middleweight division. I think there's just a clear path forward for him in the middleweight division. I'd like to see him move back down, but hey, if he decides to stay up at 205, I think he's got a great path forward too. I think Thiago Santos is a beast. All right, fight number 2, Mean Hakeem Dawodu versus Kyle Crash Bochniak. My prediction for this fight, I thought that Kyle Bochniak was going to get a split decision victory over Hakeem, and the result was a split decision victory for Hakeem. So congratulations to Hakeem. I, among many others, thought that was a unanimous decision victory for Hakeem. My prediction going into this fight, I thought that Kyle was going to land more. I thought he was going to be more aggressive, take the fight to Hakeem more than he did. I think he tasted Hakeem's power a little bit and backed off. So he was not able to get that done. I also thought that he had the clear advantage on the ground, which he was able to secure a couple of takedowns against Hakeem, but wasn't able to keep him down there for long and really put into practice Kyle's jiu-jitsu, which we know he's got some of. So hats off to Hakeem. He got the unanimous decision victory. This was one of those fights where Kyle was the underdog. I think going into it, Hakeem was about minus 180 or minus 185. And guys, I'm not afraid to pick the underdog. When I make these prediction videos for you, I'm not just going to look at what the Vegas odds are and tell you that's who I think is going to win the fight. I really want to provide analysis on these fighters, on these matchups, stylistically, the mental aspects of the fight, and really be honest with you and let you know who I think is going to win the fight. Last night, I took a chance. I thought Kyle was going to get that split decision victory. He ended up losing split decision victory to Hakeem. Now, I do have to say, hats off to Hakeem. All right, he got the victory. But I really want to see him be more aggressive in there. Watching some of his old fights on replay, watching him last night, you know, his nickname is Mean Hakeem, and he's always mean mugging everybody. He's got this face on like that, something like that. And I just want to see him be more aggressive in there. For somebody who is skilled as he is, somebody who is as fast and powerful as he is, I want to see him be more aggressive and go for the kill. And Hakeem admitted in his post-fight interviews that he could have pushed harder. You know, and he said something about maybe having a cold, although he said he never mentioned that to his corner leading up to the fight or during the fight. So I don't know if that was just an excuse, but he does admit that he could have pushed harder. And I'm with him on that. I would like to see him push harder and really go for the kill. So hats off to Hakeem. He got the victory. We'll see what's up next for him in his UFC career. So the third fight of the night, Gunnar Nelson versus Alex Oliveira. This was a pretty great fight. I enjoyed this one. So my prediction for the fight was Alex Oliveira by TKO. The result was a second round submission by Gunnar Nelson. Now, again, one of those where I wasn't afraid to pick the underdog. My thoughts leading up to the fight was Gunnar was 500 his previous 6 fights and was coming off of almost a 1.5 year layoff. And I thought that coming off that layoff and facing somebody as aggressive as Alex Oliveira and having that disadvantage on the feet, I thought Alex had a chance at getting that TKO. I did say, though, that Alex had the advantage on the feet. Gunnar had the clear advantage on the ground. I said that if the fight stayed standing, Alex was going to get it done. If the fight went to the ground, Gunnar was going to get it done. It went to the ground, Gunnar got it done. So kudos to Gunnar. Really happy to see him back in the cage. He did look great. Alex did win the first round, though. Now, on the feet, there wasn't much happening, but Gunnar closed distance quick, went for the takedown, got the body lock on the body triangle on Alex. Alex was actually able to reverse that, which is highly impressive. So he reversed Gunnar's body triangle, got on top of him, and laid some serious ground and pound. Alex won that first round and looked quite impressive. Now, coming out in the second, Alex decided to take Gunnar down. Now, he got the takedown. He did a good job with it, but I'm sitting there with my girlfriend at the time thinking, what is he doing? Why is he trying to take Gunnar Nelson down to the ground? I knew it was a bad idea the second I started to see that unfold, and it ended up being a pretty terrible idea. Gunnar got on top of him, landed a vicious elbow to Alex's face, cut him wide open, was pouring blood, and at that point, Alex was face down, saw the blood not just dripping off of his face, but pouring out of his face. And I think he wanted to call it quits there. He basically just let Gunnar sink in the rear naked choke, Gunnar's favorite move nonetheless, and was tapping before I even think he got it truly secured. He took so much damage from that elbow. So again, wasn't afraid to call the underdog in this fight. I'll continue to be honest with my picks moving forward, but hey, this is the fight game. It can go either way. I thought Gunnar would get it done if it went to the ground. It went to the ground. He got it done. Hats off to Gunnar. Glad to see you back, man. Really excited to see what happens with you moving forward. Okay, so now our co-main event of the night, Valentina Bullet Shevchenko versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. My prediction for this fight was a unanimous decision for Valentina Shevchenko. The result was a unanimous decision for Valentina Shevchenko. So hats off to Valentina. She looked incredible. I think that she is going to be the 125-pound champion for a long time to come. So hats off to Valentina. Also, mad respect to Joanna Jędrzejczyk. In my prediction video, I stated that I just absolutely love both of these girls. They're both warriors. I still think Joanna is the queen of the strawweight division. I think she should drop back down to the strawweight division and challenge for that belt. I think she still has a real good chance of victory down there in that division, even against Rose Namajunas. I mentioned I thought that the second fight against Rose was very close and that she might have won that fight. So hats off to Joanna. She always brings it, even when she was taking those punches from Valentina and taking those spinning side kicks to the gut. She was smiling in there. You know, even after getting her butt kicked for a round or two, she'd get up, she'd put her hands up, she'd get the crowd pumped. I love Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I just thought that, you know, Valentina was a little bit too much for her to handle. Wasn't sure what her pathway to victory was going to be on the feet, on the ground. I thought outstriking her was her only way to victory, and I didn't see how that was going to happen against Valentina, who really truly has her number in Muay Thai. So, loved the fight. The prediction was accurate. I think a lot of people probably predicted that. The reason why I thought, though, it was going to be a unanimous decision and not something else was because of the respect that I have for Joanna. She's a really tough chick, really tough out. I think the only time we've ever seen her get stopped was when she caught that left hook by Rose and she got dropped. So unless something like that was going to happen from Valentina, which she sure as heck had a chance to, too much respect for Joanna to go with anything but a decision the other way for Valentina. So hats off. I think both of these fighters have a bright future ahead of them. Valentina especially, but still Joanna. I hope she moves back down to 115 and makes something happen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the main event of the evening. Wow. Max Holloway and Brian Ortega. First off, the ultimate respect to Brian Ortega. I mean, to take that kind of damage and to keep moving forward, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, to tell you the truth. As Dana said, a guy like Brian, he's almost too tough for his own good. So I didn't know Brian was that tough. You know, I knew the guy had heart and spirit and could take a punch, but to take that many punches from somebody like Max Holloway and to keep moving forward, I mean, he was getting hit. You know, he got hit a few hundred times and wasn't even dizzied, it seemed like. He was bloodied, but he wasn't dizzied. Still throwing good combinations, still sticking to his game plan. I mean, Brian was just very impressive in defeat. But let's talk about Max Holloway for a second. Good Lord. First off, we're here to do a recap on my prediction. So let me say, my prediction for this fight was a 5th round TKO by Max Holloway. It was a 4th round TKO by Max Holloway. Well, as we know, after the 4th round, in between the 4th and 5th round, there was a doctor's stoppage because of the damage taken to Brian's face. But Max Holloway, good gosh. I said in my previous video, it was my opinion that Max Holloway, even prior to this fight, was the greatest featherweight in UFC history. And I think it is clear as day Max Holloway is the greatest featherweight in UFC history. Let's take a look at the statistics from last night, though. 614 total strikes. He threw 1,014 total strikes. A UFC record. 580 significant strikes. 488 strikes to the head. So, gosh, I almost wanted to look away because I couldn't, because the entertainment was incredible, but I almost wanted to look away. The beating that Brian was taking, I was screaming at the television, just Max, finish it, put him out of his misery. You know, that said, though, I don't mean, put Brian out of his misery as if he didn't want to be in there, he didn't deserve to be in there, none of that. Brian Ortega 100% deserved to be in there with Max. I mean, he had his moments in the fight, too, where Max would be pressing forward, but then he would get caught with something, maybe caught with a couple of blows. I mean, Brian landed 280 or something strikes in this fight. Brian was in this fight. It was over 200. I don't know what the exact number was. But Max would be pressing forward and then get hit with some strikes. And there were times where Max would be stepping back, recovering, getting his defense back up, because he knew Brian was not somebody to underestimate. And when he tasted some of Brian's combinations, he was quick to get his defense back up. But gosh, Max Holloway, prior to last night, was one of my favorite fighters on the current roster for sure, but arguably in UFC history. And now I think without a doubt, Max Holloway is one of my favorite fighters in UFC history, and can be challenging DC and Khabib and names like that for pound fighter, best fighter in the world. I don't think he's maybe number one yet. If he goes up to 55, and that's something that's going to be interesting to see what happens next for Max. Does he stay at 145? Does he move up to 155? If he moves up to 155, I've got two words: Conor McGregor. Could you imagine that fight? Max Holloway versus Conor McGregor 2. So Max Holloway's last loss back in 2013 was a unanimous decision loss to Conor McGregor. So he's won 13 fights in a row. Last loss, McGregor. That Max Holloway was 21 years old. Guy was 21 years old that fought Conor McGregor. And Conor McGregor was finishing everybody he faced. He had over, I don't think he still does after the Khabib fight, but he had over a 90% finish rate in the UFC. Max Holloway was one of those guys that he could not finish. Max Holloway, for 3 rounds in that Conor McGregor fight, was taking it to Conor McGregor as much as he could. He didn't have enough that night. The 21-year-old Max Holloway didn't have enough to beat Conor McGregor that night. But a 27-year-old Max Holloway on a 13-fight win streak, the king of the featherweight division, 13 fights in a row, most finishes in the featherweight division, longest win streak in the featherweight division, most wins in the featherweight division. I think moving up and facing Conor McGregor at 155 is an amazing fight that the UFC should make. I would love to see it. Let me know what you think. Would you like to see Conor McGregor and Max Holloway fight? If so, comment below. Let me know what you think. If not, I still want to hear your thoughts. Comment below. Let me know what you think Max should do. Should he stay at 145 and defend his belt more? He's got people like Renato Moicano that he could face. Moicano looks great. He was the backup to last night's fight in case Max or Brian couldn't make weight or for whatever reason couldn't fight. Moicano was the backup to that. Now Moicano weighed in at 146, so he couldn't have replaced either one of them anyway, but he was the backup. Dana White's very high on Moicano. Would you like to see Max face Moicano next, or maybe Frankie Edgar? Or would you like to see Max move up, challenge somebody like Conor McGregor? Or I don't know if you guys saw, but very shortly after the fight last night, Tony El Kukui Ferguson tweeted out, heck of a fight, congrats. He said something like, if Khabib ducks me, Max, you and I, let's go. Respect, but I'm down to fight if Khabib ducks. So let me know what your thoughts are on Max Holloway. What should he do next, and what matchup would you guys like to see? So anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. As always, first recap video to my first predictions video. So we've got this weekend coming up, Kevin Lee versus Al Iaquinta 2. That'll be an interesting fight. Really looking forward to making a prediction on that. It's actually a pretty good card. It's a UFC on Fox 31, so it's not a pay-per-view event, but it's a pretty good card. I suggest tuning in for that one, and it's of course free, so record it on your DVR, watch it live, whatever, but that's a good card that you guys should tune in for. I'll be making a prediction video on that. Be sure to tune in, and I only ask you to subscribe to my channel and click the notification button so you guys get the notifications when I come out with a new prediction video, and then of course do a recap video. So thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time.